Yo, what's going on, guys? It is your boy Pup, coach of the South Bend Snowflakes. We are back for another season of the PWC, season 11. And honestly, season 10, it went so well for us. It was one of my favorite draft seasons I've ever had. I think we went 8-2 with a loss to Shadow Gallade and Adam, who are great battlers. Plus 28 differential over the whole season, made it to semifinals. One of my most successful draft seasons ever. Definitely the most successful without getting a championship. So I'm very, very excited with this. I love the gimmick. I love the signature Pokemon. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, I'll explain it all in just a minute. But the PWC is an incredibly fun draft league, incredibly competitive too, and just an all-around a good time. But anyways, we should hop into some of these rules since I'm talking about signature Pokemon, this, blah, blah, blah. First thing, our first round pick is a signature. It's our only Pokemon that can Tera, has to come to every single match, and it has to be under 6 points. Well, it has to be 6 points or under this season. Last season it was 8 points, and this season they dropped it down a little bit. But I'm not worried about that. Last season I had Cryogonal, obviously, Snowflake as my mascot, as my signature, and it put in a ton of work. That thing was worth 6 points, and that's kind of the power level that we're dealing with this time. But I'm very happy with how it went last time. It competed with all the 8-pointers, so I think if I go down a little bit deeper, I can definitely get a signature that can compete with the rest. But that's not all. That's a little bit different from usual. We have our 115 point budget. And then we can only have 3 top tiers, so 3 Pokemon that are worth 16 or more points. I think we had Pokemon as high as 18, which, it just makes sure that the power isn't so, stacked. And it's really nice for this league because I feel like when you are picking a Pokemon that has to come to every game, that's going to be some sort of low tier. It just means, not having so many high tiers, you're going to have a huge variety, which makes it super duper fun. That's why I enjoy this league so much. Another thing we should probably mention is that these signatures, they have free Tera. Don't have to have any Tera preview or anything. No Tera types to choose from. You can pick whatever you want. If you want Stab Tera, you can pick Stab Tera. If you want some crazy random Tera that you would only need in one specific matchup, perfect. You can go ahead and do it. And, it really just catches your opponent off guard. I think that's a ton of fun in this format, especially with just one signature that has to come to every single game. Just a couple more things for people who aren't too familiar with Draft League. Pretty much counter team format. We have 8 weeks where we're facing up against a random opponent. After those 8 weeks, hopefully we make it to the playoffs. We probably just need 4 wins to make it in, but I'm hoping for a couple more than that. And then we just have a single elimination bracket to determine the champion. Super duper fun thing. You guys should definitely check it out. And if you guys aren't too familiar with the format, just watch through these videos and it will be a blast, I promise. Before we get into our team that we drafted, if you guys do enjoy it, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it, and I know you guys don't want to miss out on this season. So starting off with the draft, we have 14 teams, and we're chilling at 7th. So right in the middle, kind of sucks. It's actually the worst draft spot I could have wanted. The first round is always our signatures, so even if you're at the end of the first round, you're getting the top of the picks for the actual Pokemon, really, that come in the second round. So definitely a little bit tough being right in the middle. Just makes everything a little bit harder to plan out. But the Pokemon that I wanted, I didn't really think anyone else was going to pick it. Everyone else is picking 5 and 6 point Tera captains, and then I go down and pick this Pokemon with 2 points. Now I've used this Pokemon in the past. It's been very solid for me recently in the PSL. Been very, very good, and I'm excited to use it. Wanted something that was going to be familiar to me because the rest of my team, I'm taking a lot of stuff that's very new, even though it's all very strong. I just need a little bit of familiarity here. And so anyone who's watched PSL will know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about my boy Basculin. This Mon is absolutely crazy. 3 forms of Basculin. Red and blue striped are pretty much the same. Just a little ability change, like Reckless and something else. I don't really know. But they have adaptability, which is crazy. The white striped form can run an Eviolite because it evolves into Basculegion, so you can run it bulky that way. It has a crazy attack stat, I think 98 base speed, which is very solid. And with Tera Water, you run Choice Band, you run Wave Crash, and you absolutely destroy anything that, especially if it's not a resist, but even if it's a resist, you know, offensive Pokemon do not take hits. They need to be especially catered towards this Basculin. And the nice thing about Tera, you know, Pokemon that are built defensively to take me on, we just run, you know, Tera Electric into a water type team, and we destroy them with Tera Blast, and it just goes crazy. We got adaptability, which is going to boost that Tera stab up extra a little bit. Unfortunately, we will lose some power on those water moves, but it's still really nice. We have good coverage. You know, obviously water moves, we have ice moves, dark move, rock move, normal move, whatever Tera we use. It doesn't have the ton of utility that Cryogonal had for us last season, but the absolute attack power is going to be crazy, and I don't think any other Tera Captain can put out the amount of raw damage that Basculin can. So for that reason, at 2 points, perfect steal for me to pick up, and a great start to the team. Heading into the second round, or the first real round, you know, obviously I didn't have the best draft position. I really wanted to run it back with Meowscarada. I think it's an amazing Pokemon in the format, probably top 3 in draft, and it's only 17 points out of 18, so I think it would have been a steal. That got picked before. I wanted to go with Great Tusk as well. That would have been really nice, but it was the top pick of that second round anyways. So I was stuck with a decision to make. You know, do I take something new? Do I take something that I'm more familiar with? But I already took Basculin, so I decided to go for, you know, one of the most expensive Pokemon still left, but also one of the strongest, has a great speed tier, something that gave me a lot of trouble last season versus Shadow Gallade, and it's going to be Darkrai. I could be wrong, but I think Darkrai was the kill leader under Shadow Gallade last season, which is crazy, even with all his memeing with Hypnosis and stuff. You know, Hypnosis 55% accurate, not going to run that stuff. I'm just going to run it for its attack. It has incredible special attack, can run Nasty Plot sets, which are great, Substitute sets, which are great as well. A ton of coverage, Expert Belt is great on this thing, Dark Pulse, I think you get Thunder, you have Sludge Bomb, Focus Blast, Ice Beam, incredible stuff. And it's also just really nice to have a base 125 speed Pokemon on my team. It's actually going to be the fastest thing on my team. So getting that round 1 with, you know, a monster special attack stat is very, very good. It's going to just straight up win probably like 3 games for us this season. It's just a complete matchup check and destroys most of the people here. Now, obviously Darkrai and Basculin, they don't really meld well together with their typings. It's really nothing special, but it's really nice to have a super strong physical attacker take on those Pokemon that might have an Assault Vest for Darkrai, and then Darkrai, you know, taking on those physically defensive, maybe Rocky Helmet users with its special attacks. Now, after this Darkrai pick, there was only 1 or 2 more Pokemon that I really needed on my team, just to, you know, feel good for what I wanted to use, for the type of style that I wanted to play with. And somehow this mon ended up dropping in the 3rd round. I have no clue how they let it get to me, but somehow we got Ursaluna BLOODMOON with the 7th pick in that 3rd round. Now, if you don't know anything about Ursaluna, I mean, neither do I. I've never really used it. Never used either Ursaluna, actually. But it's an absolute incredible special attacking beast. I mean, BLOODMOON, I think it's 160 base power, ignores ghost immunities. It's crazy. It just, you know, absolutely destroys them. Can't use it twice in a row, but still a very good mon. Ursaluna is also really slow, but has that high special attack. So if I wanted to get Trick Room up, it could absolutely sweep in that. It can set up Calm Minds. It's got Moonlight. It actually has decent coverage with Moonblast as well. And obviously Earth Power to handle those Steel or Rock types that would want to resist your BLOODMOON. So just a very, very good mon. It's also incredibly bulky. I think it has like a base 120 defense, which is crazy. You know, its special defense is nothing crazy, but Ursaluna can definitely take some hits and dish out a crazy amount of damage. I think, you know, with Darkrai and Basculin, we already have a crazy core just to deal so much damage to the opposing team, and they're not really going to have anything that can take care of the combination of these 3. So there's a couple Pokemon that, you know, I haven't used before. They're a little bit unfamiliar. I'm hoping that they work well together, not really sure, but I definitely need to add 1 more Pokemon that I've used a little bit, and another Pokemon that I think is crazy underrated in draft. Obviously, it's still a pretty high tier, but you know, I wanted to grab a Zapdos here. I think it's a great defensive Pokemon. I like to run Rocky Helmets on this thing, and Boots are great as well. Leftovers, whatever you want to run, and that's just all defensive. You can also run it offensive. It does a ton of damage with Hurricane, Discharge, T-Bolt, Volt Switch, Heat Wave, whatever you want to put on it. That's a great mon. Static is a great ability for it to have, just to be able to cripple those physical attackers. I think it just works really well with my team. Luckily, no rock weaknesses yet, so having Zapdos is not too big of a deal. The typing works really well, you know, to take out those fighting types that are threatening Darkrai and Ursaluna. You know, we switch into Zapdos, we threaten them with Hurricane. You can also just threaten Paras on their whole team, and Para is probably the most important status element in draft. It's actually super overpowered, having that speed difference, plus the chance to just not move on any given turn. It's just crazy. Super underrated as well. We can even switch into the grass types, or to some extent electric types that threaten Basculin. Obviously, we're going to be able to Tera out of our water type, but in a lot of matchups, we're just going to Tera water and just destroy stuff with Wave Crash or Liquidation or whatever we want to do. And obviously, Zapdos gives us a great pivot. We can pivot out from those really fast Pokemon, get slower Volt Switches off, and get into our definite threats with Basculin, Darkrai, Ursaluna, even a couple of the other mons that are in the back. It just works really well on any team, and I think on our team specifically, it's incredible. Now, this team is definitely not going to be bulky by any means, a little bit different from last season with that Cryogonal that we could use bulkily. We had a couple other options on the team, but we're going to make it pretty attacking, which is why I added Scizor to the team. Crazy physical attacker to pair with Basculin. Nothing's taking choice banded hits from either of these mons. Has a great pivoting options, U-turn, and then great priority in Bullet Punch, because we definitely need some good priority. We're only going to max out at a base speed of 125 with Darkrai, so we're kind of screwed to any setup sweepers that are setting up Dragon Dances or anything like that. We need some sort of priority on the team. It also just has a great typing. Steel Bug, obviously you have that 4 times weakness to fire, which we don't have a great resist because Basculin doesn't really want to take those hits, but it can aggressively pivot on fire types, you know, click choice banded Tera Water, adaptability Aqua Jet, and take them out. So it's decent, but you know, having a good fairy resist is really nice to pair with Darkrai, and it's just a good mon all in all that we can run in multiple different ways. Obviously, that 4 times weakness to fire isn't really that good, and we have another 4 times weakness to fire later on in the team. But we take on physical fires really well with what I have and what I'm going to show you guys down the board. And special fires, you know, we'll just beat them with our offense anyways. Now, that's not to say we don't have anything that can beat special attackers, as this Pokemon that I'm picking next, pretty specially defensive. You can run it as Fizz Def as well. It's just a really good utility and support Pokemon. That's going to be Screamtail. So Screamtail obviously has that super duper good support. Stealth Rocks, you know, you have a Wish Passing, Thunder Wave, you have a ton of coverage, you know, clicking Ice Beams versus their team's Psychic Noises, Stab Fairy, like Dazzling Gleams, stuff like that. And you can also set it up with Calm Minds. It can be a win con in a bunch of games. Obviously, we needed a Fairy type, so it just fit really, really well on the team. I think it's nice to be able to pair with something like Scizor, where we can Wish Pass to that. Ursaluna, BLOODMOON, we can Wish Pass to that thing as well. And it's really nice for a couple of the other bulkier mons that we have down the board as well. I really had to make sure we had some good hazard users as well, as we don't really want Ursaluna, BLOODMOON to be running hazards. And it's really nice to have in these games where I'm chipping stuff down for Darkrai and Basculin to sweep. You know, we really want to break some Focus Ashes. We don't want stuff to be living on 1 HP and revenge killing us. So that's why we put Screamtail on the team. And Screamtail is obviously another new Pokemon that I haven't really used. I've thought that it's pretty mid in draft, but you know, I've been seeing more people use it. And I think that it actually could be pretty solid, especially on a team that's built kind of bulky offensive like this one. Sticking with that theme of bulky offense, my next pick had to be something from last season that I didn't use that much. I really wish I used it more. It's a very, very solid mon. Gives us a Grounded Poison, access to Toxic Spike. It's a Dragon type as well. Be able to drop Adaptability Draco Meteors, Sludge Bombs, Sludge Waves, whatever. That's right, it's Dragalge. incredibly bulky Pokemon on the special side especially, and has crazy special attack. You know, obviously has a very slow speed, so you're not really outspeeding and, you know, KOing the rest of their team, but it's a very solid Pokemon that can easily be used as a wall breaker for those bulky, you know, waters that kind of mess up our team so far, that Basculin doesn't deal with so far. And it just deals with fairy types, which we also really don't like with Darkrai. A lot of people really think that T-Spikes are amazing in Scarlet Violet, and I think they're really good. Depends on your matchup, definitely. But we have a user for them here. Obviously, it's nice to have a grounded poison so we don't get taken advantage of with those T-Spikes as well, because we don't really have much removal on the team, as we're adding one remover later, but that's not really that much to deal with all the hazard stacking that's so good in Paldea decks. But a little bit more about Dragalge. Like I said, hits super duper hard. You also get water moves on that thing, so a little bit to pair with Basculin. And it gets access to Flip Turn, which is really nice to get super duper slow momentum into some of our crazy strong attackers. I think that's going to be really nice to be able to use as a bulky pivot and potentially just a bulky wall breaker as well. In my drafts, I usually don't go for a high tier fire type Pokemon. You know, if I do go for a good fire type Pokemon, maybe it's my top tier, like Blaziken, picked in the UNPL, which is really solid, but I don't really put that much importance on him, so I thought maybe I should grab something this time. Something I'm a little bit familiar with. Never used this specific Pokemon, but I've used all of its other forms in the past. Got Intimidate base 100 or 110 speed, something crazy like that. And one of its forms is like top 10 on my kill leader list, which is crazy. It's going to be Tauros Paldea Blaze. Now this Pokemon is really good. We can use it as a defensive pivot with Intimidate, especially for those physical fire types. That's why I said we're really good into them. We do have Zapdos as well for that sort of role, but it's pretty good here as well. Make sure that we're not having another fairy weakness with a fighting type, because I thought a fighting type was decent on the team, but I didn't want something that was just going to get destroyed by Moonblast or anything like that. It has great coverage, you know, rock, ground, fighting, fire, dark moves. I'm not exactly sure what else it gets, but it probably gets a lot of other stuff. Really fun to use with a bulk up set if you want to use it like that. You can use it with Anger Point against like Urshifu, take a hit from that thing, get crit, and then absolutely destroy them. You can Trailblaze to boost your speed, use it as a sweeper in that way. You can also just build it super bulkily, and it can take on a lot of hits from those fire types. So definitely a really good mon. I think it actually fits super well on the team, and something that I was really glad was only sitting here for 10 points. With grabbing a fire type though, you usually get the rock weakness. Luckily, we're not really dealing with that, but you definitely get a ground weakness, which, you know, we just grabbed the Tauros, we just grabbed Dragalge. We have a 1 immunity in Zapdos. I thought we should at least grab a resist on the team while getting another hazard setter and a hazard remover, which means we're going for Bramblegast. So I used Bramblegast in the GWA low tier season 2. It was decent for me. I felt like I had to bring it a lot just to make sure there were no hazards on my side of the field because I was really weak to them. Fortunately, this time I'm not really weak to Stealth Rock. Spikes are a little bit annoying, but it's not too bad versus my team, especially if we can just run that hyper offense and destroy their teams first. But it's just nice to have on the team. Also gives me a spin blocker and a spike setter, so I can set up spikes versus their team and block it with Bramblegast. Has good, reliable recovery with Strength Sap, and with Leech Seed, I think it's pretty solid. Poltergeist hits like an absolute truck. This thing has a decent attack stat on a decent speed stat as well, but you can run it bulky if you want, and it can definitely take some hits. It's also just really nice to have some more priority in the back with Shadow Sneak. Just a really solid mon. For 7 points, I thought it was actually pretty good. Maybe a steal, maybe a, you know, an 8 or 9 point Pokemon, but we'll see if we can actually use it to an extent that makes it seem like an 8 or 9 point Pokemon this season. And after that, I'm looking at the board, I'm looking at my team, and my team is really solid. I'm missing a little bit of the lower speed tiers, or the middling speed tiers somewhat. It's kind of low in this generation, but oh well. But, you know, I don't really need any other typings. I think I'm missing, what, rock? Is that it, potentially? But I don't really care about a rock. I don't want another ground weakness. That would not be fun. So I decided to just grab some mons that I've really wanted to use for a while. And the first one is going to be Medicham. And this thing, obviously only 60 base attack, but it's got pure power to double it. So it hits crazy hard. It has a decent, I think, 80 speed stat, which fits pretty well on this team, in the middle of all my slow Pokemon and all my fast Pokemon. And it just hits like a truck. Click close combat with this thing. You can also do fake out, bullet punch sort of stuff. Zen headbutt's really nice. It has the elemental punches, which are really good. I just remember using Mega Medicham and Gen 7. I think I got to top 100 on the Gen 7 OU ladder with Mega Medicham in sand, which is really fun. Something like that. I don't really exactly remember, but very fun Pokemon that I really want another chance to use. I've also seen other people use it in Draft League, maybe not super recently, but every time I'm like, man, I really want to use this Pokemon. So I really had to go out of my way to grab Medicham. Only 7-point Pokemon. Before we had the tiers released, I actually wanted Medicham as a potential Tera Pokemon, because imagine Tera fighting on Medicham, just clicking pure power close combat, or you run Tera Dark with some dark move and you destroy the ghost that want to switch it on you. It's just a crazy mod. But yeah, that's Medicham for me. Just something really solid. Adds a psychic type, I guess, that I didn't have to the team, but that doesn't really, give me anything that new. I guess it does give me priority, which is also what my last Pokemon gives me. I have 5 points left at this point, and I thought, looking at the 5-point mons, there's actually a ton of really solid options. A couple of them were picked up already as Tera Captains, like Komala for 5 points, actually really solid as a spinner. Dusknoir, picked up at 5, actually really good attacker. But I decided that I was going to pick up a Abomasnow. So that gives me a little bit more priority. I get the ice type that I didn't have on my team that I didn't really need. Obviously, it's a rocks weakness, but our only other one is Zapdos, so I'm not too worried. Gives us another ground resistance, which is really nice. And it's just a really solid Pokemon. You can set up Aurora Veil with it, so we could set up with Darkrai, Ursaluna, Scizor, Screamtail. Literally anything on my team can go crazy with it. And it's just really nice, the coverage of, blizzards that are never going to miss. You have Earthquakes, Earth Powers, Giga Drains, Leaf Storms, Wood Hammers, Ice Shards, stuff like that. Just a really solid roll Pokemon at 5 points. And it covered, some of the matchups. I was looking at other teams. And, I didn't know this at the time, but I played team with Landorus week 1. Landorus plus Dragonite, that's 2 4 times weaknesses to Ice. I thought, just having this Ice-type Pokemon with some really strong Ice Shard priority, and, you get that Snow Up, potential Aurora Veil, just a really good mod to have on the team. So, no-brainer pick for me. But yeah, that's the entire team. I'm actually really happy with it. It looks better on paper than my team from last season, even though I think my team was really solid, especially with Masquerada leading, and that Cryogonal, who performed better than I expected. But I think with Basculin and Darkrai at the helm this time, it's going to go absolutely crazy. No one else could definitely compete to my Wave Crashes and my Dark Pulses. Yeah, so that's my whole team. If you guys did enjoy, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe. I know you guys don't want to miss it. The battle should be going up every Thursday, I hope. It should be. I'm pretty ahead of schedule. Already did my week 1 battle, which, no spoilers for that. But if you go check out my Rocky Helmet video that I dropped, maybe a week ago, then there's a couple spoilers if you look at the background for that. Seeing how Basculin does in our first game of the season. But very, very fun. If you guys do enjoy, like I said, please be sure to drop that sub so you don't miss out on any more content. We have Draft League content going up 6 of the 7 days of the week at minimum right now. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, that's going to be about it for me. See you guys in week 1. Peace out.